Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Practically Tactical. This is our live show streaming to you on YouTube. You can catch all of our shows on iTunes in a podcast format. You guys know how it works. New episodes drop every Sunday. For everybody out there watching live here on YouTube, please go ahead and put your comments, part of the conversations, whatever you want to say. Quips and witty comments are also allowed tonight. So put those in the YouTube chat or the Google Q&A app. I'll be monitoring those, and when we stop and do a break or something, we'll get you guys your questions answered there. Also, please be sure to click that like and share button, as it really helps us spread the show around YouTube. For those that are curious here, the man that is making me look tremendously ugly on tonight's show is Mr. Paul Van Dunk from Pace Performance. How's it going, man? Thanks for coming on.
How you doing?
Hey.
Pretty good. Enjoying the weather out here.
Oh, yeah, it's like 7 degrees and snowing right now. So, I am. What's the weather like down there right now?
It's been low lately. It was 30, like pretty much in the 30s all day today. Yesterday was even colder, I believe, and they actually closed down the schools yesterday because it was so cold. They were afraid it was going to like rain or something. It was going to freeze over in Louisiana. So and the couple days before that it was like really warm. So it was like, it's really wishy-washy right now.
What is this frozen stuff falling from the sky? The end of the world is coming, right?
Yeah, it's bad. From what I understand, even rain makes it weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad it's like not -11 right now. So I got that going for me.
Yeah.
But let's see here. I don't think we got any other things going on other than we'll get links here shortly. But of course, check out Paul on Instagram. Check out us on Instagram as well. We'll be giving away the Ultra Operator signed PMAG on Instagram here shortly. But otherwise, let's go ahead and start the show. Let's kickstart. Let's kickstart this.
Sure thing.
Welcome to Practically Tactical, episode 62, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. The Practically Tactical show is a slightly more practical approach to the firearms lifestyle. The show features a roundtable discussion about guns, gear, and shooting with some of the best firearms instructors and figures in the firearms industry. Since, Paul, this is your first time on the show, I can officially say you've made it. You've made it, sir.
I'm here. I've arrived?
You've arrived, sir.
I'm here.
From now on, every flight is first class. That's how it works. That's a guarantee of the show, hands down. But for more information on the show, links to Paul, some guns and gear we discussed, please visit practacpodcast.com/062. You guys know the drill. I can tell in this episode we're going to hit on, I think, a really cool topic that I think the more and more as the firearms industry kind of progresses and training progresses, that it's going to be really, I think, a hot topic and where a lot of firearms instructors and people looking to take classes kind of gear towards too. So we're going to be discussing performance shooting with Paul Van Dunk of Pace Performance Consulting. So Paul, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this.
It's good to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. So, where should people go to find more information about you? Like take some classes. Where should they go on this crazy thing called the internet?
The interwebs, yes. Right now, it's funny because we were having a conversation a couple days ago with some old friends, and they're like, "Hey, where's the website?" And I'm like, here's the thing. Our website got mishmash, and I lost it during I guess they call it porting. I have no idea what that means. The new site will be up very soon, and we're working on a new URL because our old URL is obviously going to be changed. So I am on Instagram at Van Dunk Jr. I'm on Facebook as well at Pace Performance Consulting. My personal account obviously is my personal account. I really don't post much gun stuff there. But most of my information is there, and we're located in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, for all you guys out there, please check him out. I should also mention for everybody on YouTube land or those that are listening that go on YouTube, you can look up former guests on the show, Aaron Cowan from Sage Dynamics. I think I actually set up as a trailer on the YouTube thing. I think you're in a couple videos, at least one. But you can go check him out, see more information on there. See him rock it like. Dude, you look ripped in your Griffin Armament shirt on that video, dude. Like,
yeah, Aaron and I have done a couple videos together. We've done a couple classes together. It's always great to get to spend time on the range with Aaron and or on the phone or over FaceTime. We FaceTime a lot, so we are always bouncing ideas off each other and working things out. We have a class out in Vegas at the end of next month as well. It's going to be pretty cool.
Well, while we're on the subject, what upcoming classes do you have, and where are they at?
I'll be in California next month. That's more of a private thing, a private class that I put together, as well as being. I'll be with Agency Arms for a couple days doing some product development for some new cool stuff coming out from them
so shooting.
as well. So yeah. So yeah, lots of trigger pulling and some tinkering stuff like that. And then I'll be the end of the month. I'll be in Las Vegas, and I'll be at forget the range where we had media day.
Okay.
So we'll be out there for a 2-day hybrid class with Aaron Cowan and myself. We call it the Aaron and Paul Show. It's a little nickname we gave it because we really like the idea of working together just because we are from such diverse backgrounds and we get along and we have basically a very similar mindset as far as being very student focused instead of paycheck focused, which is kind of important for me. So that's for the foreseeable future till the end of next month. That's where I'll be. Obviously, the California thing taking up a lot of my time this month, and then I'll be home for about a week and a half, then heading out to Las Vegas. But coming up, I'll be having 2 to 3 classes in New Jersey the following month at the Cobra Tactical shooting range, and I believe that's out in Great Meadows, New Jersey. It's New Jersey, so it's one of those like
New Jersey's not.
I feel like hypocritical saying it because like yeah, I'll be in New Jersey. And people are like, Jersey, yucky. Oh, man, what are you doing there? Like, I'm teaching a pistol class. So, like, can you even have a pistol in New Jersey? No. I just roll with it.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's good. And again, too, if everybody has the opportunity to check out you with, again, Aaron Cowan, for those listening to the show, they should know Aaron Cowan is an amazingly what I love about him is, well, I mean, he's funny and all that. He's such a cerebral guy, though, and you as well. That maybe thinks before they speak. I do not go by that at all. So it's it's good to see other guys out there doing that. But let's go ahead and here, and I got one show note as I've been plugging it here on the past couple shows. We got a 3rd annual Shot Heard Around the World coming up in New Hampshire. I think there's only a couple spots left that you can register through. They just did bump the cap up to 250 people that can attend it. So you guys can check out the show notes for a link to that. It'll take you to the Facebook event page, so be sure to check that out before they fill up. But let's go ahead and move on to our first segment of the evening, the Operators Report, where we'll get the true down and dirty from true operators like Paul here. For those that have not heard, Beretta unveiled the APX. It is a striker-fired pistol, their first striker-fired pistol. Kind of a big deal. They announced it in Dubai, though, which is a little interesting, at the IDEX 2015. Currently, it's in the pre-series testing phase, and the company aims to complete full qualification in the second quarter of 2015. It'll be available in 9mm, our standard 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 9x21, which is Israeli developed. Basically, it's a longer 9mm. Paul, have you got a chance to look at this and kind of get your thoughts on it at all?
The Beretta, I only saw it. Oh boy, I saw a leaked image of it about. I think it was around SHOT Show. I saw a leaked image and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. At least they're putting their head in the game. It's always interesting being the last person of the party, though. Especially when you're developing new firearms and everything. It's not something anything groundbreaking. The trigger system may be, the development may be, that's fine, but it's still just another striker-fired gun. HK finally came out with one after SIG did, and everyone was kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, why now? Why not like when we needed them, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, when the striker-fire thing was like all the rage? I've seen some pictures. I never got a chance to handle one. I do know Steve Fisher, who's a friend of mine, got a chance to. I believe he has some design input on the gun.
I'm
actually certain he has some design input on the gun. So that's kind of a big thing. If he had some input, I'm sure it's going to be a great thing that they have going. From my understanding, it's a very modular system, which is cool. But once again, I only know what I've read, so I can't pull too much from words. But from what I understand, is they're going to be going full bore with this, and it's going to be offered in a couple different calibers, a couple different variations, and maybe 2 sizes at most, which is I think smart for them because they make a lot of great products already, and I think the PX4 is it the polymer fired gun, the polymer frame gun that they have has been a hit and miss thing for a lot of people. Like, oh, I love the PX4, and people are like, I hate it, it's poopy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I think it's pretty cool, even though it comes from the old Cougar design of that rotating barrel design and breech. I thought it was a really cool idea.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the new thing, especially this one. They got away from that design. For me, looking at it, it looks like, again, to me, they kind of incorporate at least a little bit of kind of where the market, obviously, like with, we'll talk about agency arms there, your pistol customization, slide serrations, and getting work done to it for one-handed manipulations. It looked like they actually, amazingly, a handgun manufacturer looked at the market and said, hey, maybe we should do that. They has some pretty aggressive. It's not necessarily slide serrations. It's more. They call it serrations, but they stick out instead of having it dug into the slide, which is kind of interesting. Comes with your standard. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What was that?
It's like a spine to me. It's like a really neat kind of. To me, it's a cool idea. It makes sense. The entire gun looks like a surface point, like to get your hand on, work on it.
And it looks like for lack of a better term, we'll say studs that stick out, look to be pretty, we'll say, horizontal in the cuts, to where it does give you like a lot of areas to rack off of it. For some reason, you had to rack it off the side of the slide, not the sights. One thing the first thing when I looked at this and it stuck out was, that's a flat trigger. Like that. That was like, okay, you had me at flat trigger. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It does look like they have a pretty good undercut under the trigger cut on there. Has a fully flat trigger guard, enlarged magazines for quicker extraction. You can change out the back straps. I'm assuming from the picture that the sights on there are actually metal and not polymer. To me, if the gun comes out with all like the picture hype, it could be a really, really good gun. I'm just afraid from the one picture that's on the internet, they flip around the other side, and then there's an external safety. Like, that's like, they're just like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, you're done. Get out of here.
We're Beretta. We got you.
There, it's like that hype picture. Like, it's like showing the nice side. Well, every side of a Ferrari has a nice side. But,
yeah.
Like I'm a car guy, so like the Evo for me, like the Evo is like the meanest looking car from the front. But somehow they just let it go on the profile in the rear. It's just like, dude, what were you? Who was drunk? What you had like this knock out of the park design, and then you go to the side and you're like, okay, you dropped the ball, you're done. My interest is lost. I'm gone. But yeah, absolutely. I don't think they would have. But it'd be interesting to see it when it's finally finished. If that is a finished prototype, hopefully they don't change it too much from where I saw it there, because not many new guns have come out in the past 5 years that I've looked at and been like, I have to have that. But coming from a company like Beretta, especially after their shotgun, their new semi-auto shotgun, they have my attention. Mm-hmm. Beretta definitely has my attention. Now that they're getting into the striker fire pistol market, they also did the ARX, the AR-15 dealio. I think they're a little bit late to the game, yes, but like most companies are. I mean, most companies, the hardest thing for them is like, well, how do we tiptoe around the whole Glock thing and the Smith & Wesson thing, and how do we get to where we want to go without basically rubbing too many people the wrong way on our way there? So I guess I get that from a development standpoint. But from the standpoint of a company alone, if anyone's going to do it like that, I figured, HK was a real great hit. HK
VP9,
the VP9, awesome handgun, and the Beretta looks like it's going to be another home run. Just from a design standpoint, just from looking at it, not even considering pulling the trigger on it, but looking at it and saying, hey, you know what? This has a lot of features that I put on my guns, that I send my guns out to have done to them. This is out of the box, close to where I want it to be.
Yeah. Well, and something I did want to throw out too, and we'll move on from this. The beaver tail It's not quite as extended, but to me, the grip angle and the little bit of beaver tail reminds me of a M&P. I mean, that stuck out to me as an M&P. So maybe they kind of stole a few things from a couple different guns. Which, hey, if you're late to the market, at least if you come out and do it right, that's going to help a lot. So, well, hopefully that it's right. I do have to actually stop just to address one live comment we have right now because I think it's pertinent to the conversation. We have Mr. A.A. Ron from Solo Defense Training Group popping in and saying that Paul Dunk is so hot right now. So hot.
This guy. Oh, man. A.A. Ron Brumley is a very good friend of mine. A.A. Ron from Solo and I did a class together out in North Carolina, and it was just an experience. It was an experience to be out there with people that were just so like-minded and such great people. And I don't know what A.A. Ron's talking about. He's the sexy one here. I'm just some bum.
Well, I can tell you, our podcast listeners should understand because he's been on the show a couple times. He has the sweetest, nicest voice. Like he can't say anything bad about anybody because it wouldn't match his accent. He's just a sweet, gentle giant.
He is. He really is. He really is. That's for sure.
And I'll use this as a perfect segue for our next episode, episode 63. Actually, A.A. Ron's going to come join the show and be my special co-host. Emphasis on special. We have Brandon LeBuff from Nola Attack coming on the show. For those that are listening, he's actually dropped 2 excellent videos recently. But one he talked about was basically if you look at the whole, from a 0 to 100 of percentage on a shooting, of pulling the trigger is actually 0.001%. So we're going to kind of expand on that on the show. Great stuff from him. So he'll be joining the show with me here and hopefully making the show sound like we know what the heck we're talking about. We'll see. That's to be determined still. Spoiler alert for next week's episode. But let's go ahead and jump in here, Paul. If you could kind of, we talked about this on the phone earlier, but it's such an interesting story of, and I'd love to hear stories like this too, can you kind of give us a little bit of your history? Obviously, you're not the traditional, I was raised, I killed a whole bunch of things, I went into the army, I killed more things, I got out, and I was good with the gun, and that's all I did, Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a unique story, and I love to hear those.
Yeah, I did not live by the gun. I was not military, not law enforcement. My story, and we had discussed this on the phone. That question had been asked to me not too long ago, and I was kind of dumbfounded by the question. I was like, wow. Now that I think about it, I can't give you a 5-minute nutshell of like my background. Nope. It's actually kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big, long deal. So I'll try to keep it as small and compact as I can without losing control.
Lose control, son.
When I was a kid, all right, we're gonna do that then. We're getting out of control. When I was a kid, my parents were very split. Father more Republican, mother more liberal. Kind of Democratic and stuff like that. And it was. Father was like, hey, he should have guns, he should have knives, he should have, that stuff.
Meat.
And my mom was like, no, you can't have guns. I don't want any guns in the house, blah, 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 no knives. And, the closest thing I had to a pocket knife was like a small fillet knife or something. So I had this passion for like guns. So like I'd make little Lego guns, pew, 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 with the Lego guns, and I'd break them down and rebuild them, break them down and rebuild them. And I only knew from what I saw on TV. So like the first time I saw like an AR-15, I was like, what? What is that? That's crazy. Other than that, like cowboy movies. Then got a little bit older and saw the movie Heat, and then it was over. I was hooked. Yes. I saw the movie Heat, and it was all for me. So let's fast forward to like let's call it 18. Moved out of the house, and before actually let's fast track even shorter than that. Let's go to 14. My dad snuck in a single shot Enshun's bolt, like Olympic style 22 rifle, and like he brings me out of the barn. I'm thinking like he wants me to do some work. He wants me to shovel a stall, or he wants me to put up a bale of hay because his back is hurting or something. So it was. He pulls up this sheet in the bed of his truck. He's like, hey, listen, this stays in the barn. I'm going to show you everything how it works. We're not going to do it today, but we're going to get to we're going to shoot this together. And I'm like, what? Is that a real gun? It's not a BB gun? Oh my god, this is the most... No, I actually started crying. So I was like, it was that important to me to have a gun, I guess. So I was like, oh man, it's so awesome. So like next thing I know, like Pops is putting out soda cans and stuff, and I'm shooting him a couple times. And then he's like, my dad's always trying to challenge me, so he puts the soda cans on their side, so just the cylindrical base of the soda can's facing me, so I'm shooting at that. It ended up being better than I thought I would, and my father had taught me prone, standing, freestanding. He taught me an Olympic style, hold on the rifle, using the sling to get some tension on it. And my father was in the military, so he took whatever he could muster to teach me what he thought I needed to know. And then my father also taught me like how to break the gun down and clean it. And my father always said, you take care of the gun so it takes care of you. Noted. Did a little bit of hunting with high school friends, which was awesome, but always had to borrow a gun because I couldn't bring the 22. Then it was a Ruger 1022 after that, which is like, no wait, we made this mistake on the phone. It wasn't a Ruger 1022. It was a Marlin 22 with the tube magazine. You drop the bullets in like one
Model
at a time,
66.
Like, yay! And you take the compression rod and it was the coolest thing ever because it was semi-automatic. So I was like, then it was how fast can I shoot 5 cans? Tink, 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 and I would mess around with that and reload it. So I've kind of always been like, because I'm ADHD, it's like I always want to do everything like super fast because
there's only one speed.
I just like to do it. So we fast forward to like leaving the house, leaving the nest, and like getting out with my friends. And some of my friends were like militaria collectors. They would collect like Nagants and AKs and SKSs and ARs and stuff like that. Nothing wild like you see today. Just standard no frills guns with iron sights. So my friend's like, oh, you should get an AR-15 and you should come shoot these tactical rifle matches. And I'm like, whoa, tactical rifle match? That sounds like a fun time. I didn't even need any more information. I went out like a week later with like my 2 weeks of pay and was like, I want to buy an AR-15. And then the guy at the gun counter was like, all right, well, I got this right here. It's like a ZM Weapon Systems, like the gas piston AR. I was like, I can't afford that. So he's like, oh, what do you got to spend? I was like, $800. He's like, all right. He gives me a Bushmaster. I'm like, whatever. I know nothing. Bushmaster seems fine. So yes,
it's got a Viper.
Everyone watching, I owned a Bushmaster, and it doesn't matter. The gun actually ran pretty good. I don't remember how accurate it was because I wasn't really shooting it that far of a distance. Maybe 100 was my max. So anyway, you get this rifle. You got these like crappy nylon mag pouches, and I had one mag. That's all I needed was one mag in the gun, one mag in a second backup, which I never got to reload. And it was just moving through a couple areas, shooting a couple targets like IDPA style, and that was it. So like I liked this. So like from there I was like, oh man, this is fun. I really like this, and I stuck with it. So what I ended up doing was getting involved with like. You know how you have a group of friends that's like commitment level with something is like here, and you meet another guy whose commitment level is like here. This guy lives, breathes, and eats like whatever it is that he's into. So
he eats lead for breakfast.
He does, and I met this friend who's like all into guns. Like this guy is moto. So he's like dragging me to all these competitions. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm like upgrading the rifle. And it gets to the point where I'm like, all right, well, I'm 21 now, so I can have a pistol. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go to Weaver's Gun Shop. Or no, it wasn't Weaver's. It was American Sport Shooting, which is the company I ended up working for, but we'll get to that. American Sport Shooting, I go to the counter. I'm like, hey, I want to buy a handgun. And the guy's like, I've been in and out of this gun shop, like talking to the owner and talking to some of the guys behind the counter. And ended up being there in, I think it was around my birthday in July. And I came in and I was like, hey, I want to buy a pistol. And we look around, and then I see it. I see the HK USP 40, which is like, at that point in my life, was like the gun to have. Sorry about that. And so I'm all excited about this gun. And now think about it. Like, this is a double single action gun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that. I am so blinded by like impulse that I'm like, I must have this HK USP 40. It is the gun from Rainbow 6. I gotta have it. So next thing you know, I'm sporting a Phobos dual mag power Maryland holster, and I'm in IDPA matches, and I'm not doing that great. I got like a trigger control issue, I got a hesitation issue, I got a sight alignment issue, but I don't even care. I'm just so happy to be there. So that was that was going into my first IDPA match, and after that it was pretty easy because I got picked up by a couple guys, and they were just like, "Hey, let us show you a couple things," and that turned into like really getting into shooting. Once I was shown, like, it's like anything in life. When someone can direct you to the result you want, you kind of enjoy it more because you're like, well, if I can get this result more consistently, obviously I want to do that. So after a couple more IDPA matches, probably around 12. And I was just going and paying the $15 and shooting them at Blue Ridge Cherry Valley, at Factoryville, and places like that. So I go to the gun shop, and I'm talking to the owner again, which is like this. By this time, this guy's got to hate me because like I'm the quintessential asshole. I'm coming in and asking him like a million questions and buying like a box of bullets, and this guy is like, oh, I'm gonna kill this kid. So we end up talking. He's like, hey, you've been shooting IDPA. You should go check out USPSA up in Atalani. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go to Atalani and check this out. And he's like, oh, it's more shooting. Don't mess with that IPA stuff anymore. It's too slow paced, blah, blah, blah. But go watch a match first. Okay, cool. So at this point, and just real quick segue, at this point, I'm shoeing horses for a living. That's what I used to do. For 14 years, I was a blacksmith. So for you people at home, I used to nail shoes on horses' feet. Nutshell it like that. So anyway, this is paying for my guns and my ammo and everything. So anyway, I go to Atalani. Or no, I didn't go to Atalani. I forget where I ended up going. I ended up going to this place, and I ended up watching this match. And forget about the shooting. These guys are intimidating. Like, all the gear, like, strapped onto them, and, like, the hats, and, like, no vests. Like, these are dudes. Like, they seem like pretty serious dudes, and they're like, they all have their game faces on. And watching them shoot was just incredible. Like, I had no idea that people shot like that. I had assumed that the fastest someone shot was like I don't know, a .30 split, like a really long split. And these guys are out there blasting, like, and I'm like, oh, that is so cool. I want to do that. So I ended up going back to the shop to get my ammunition for the following week's match from the owner of the gun shop. And he's like, what are you going to shoot? I was like, I'm going to shoot my USP. And he's like, okay, you could run production division, I guess, but you're going to be at a disadvantage. And I'm like, what do you know? So I ended up going there, and I ended up competing, and I won't go through all the stories because we could go for hours about that. But I end up not liking the USP. It just at that time I didn't understand height of a bore. I didn't understand axes and hinge points and the way you grip the gun. It had to all be shown to me. And after everyone all showed me this stuff, I understood that the HK really wasn't what I was looking for. So I ended up going to the shop and saying, like, hey, what should I shoot? I'm getting to the point where I kind of want to get much deeper into this whole USPSA IPSC thing. So he's like, you ever check out a Glock? And I'm like, Glock? Well, what's a Glock? Like, sounds.
Oh, I was there. I remember being there too, so don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all there, where we're all like, you have this like idea, like now keep in mind the internet wasn't as big as it was now. I'm dating myself. I mean, it was, but I was like, we're talking about like 2004, 2005. We're not talking about like 2 years ago. So I had no idea what to expect out of a Glock. I didn't have a picture in my mind of what a Glock looked like. So he lays it on the counter, and I'm like, what's that? Where's the hammer? Noob question, where's the hammer? So education, literally, from that point, that was one of the turning points in my career. In my shooting career, at least. It was learning about striker fire guns and how they work, and me honestly looking at that and saying, that's better than a hammer. And him being like, well, yeah, it is. So I ended up grabbing a Glock. I traded in the HK, and I was like, yeah. He was like, I'll give you 1,000 rounds, the Glock, and 4 extra mags and a mag pouch for your HK. I'm like, done. Don't even care. I mean, ammo was cheap at this point. It was like $170 for like 1,000 rounds, not even, I don't think. So I get the Glock. I go to shoot with it a little bit. I really like it. Now I really like it. I mean, it's a 9 millimeter. It's so much less recoil than the 40 HK. It's just a completely different gun. It seemed like it just did everything faster. Like the slide moved faster. Everything was faster for me.
So I'm assuming
And
it
once
was
again,
Glock 17.
Yeah, Glock 17. And now remember, this is going off that older education, that older mind, that younger mindset, I should say, of like not knowing any better. So then it was like pew 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 pew. Wow, this is really fun. Pew 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 pew. And then it just got to the point where like I wanted more. I wanted so much more. And then I got turned on to, instead of going to USPSA, I went to dun 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 IPSEC, and that was another eye opener. Like, you got to come correct if you go from USPSA to like the big leagues. Like, in my opinion, once again, my opinion, USPSA is great, but IPSEC is kind of like, you've arrived. Like, these dudes do not mess around. So I ended up shooting one of those matches and failing miserably, and realized that like, hey, I need to tighten up some things. I started. This is like 2000 and probably end of 2005, because I remember it being wintertime, getting close to wintertime. So it was at that point where I was like, all right, well, it's time to put up or shut up. So I started actually looking for people to shoot with that were better than me. And then that turned into being turned on to a very good shooter from our area, suggesting I go take a course. And I was like, take a course? What do you mean? They're like, no, well, there's instructors that'll teach you how to do all this. And I'm like, what?
They
The guy will
teach
teach
that?
me how to do that, and he's not NRA? What do you mean? That's crazy. So I ended up going to a front sight class. It was my first class. It was being held locally in the Mount Pocono area, and it was a great class. Once again, go from that open-mindedness that I had just adopted. I was like, wow, that's really great. I literally, from that moment on, was a training junkie. I would go out every weekend, even days I got off work early, I would shoot. So anyway, we'll fast forward to like 2007. 2007, I'd been shooting in competitions. I wasn't registered. I didn't join IDPA. I didn't join IPSEC. I didn't join USPSA. I went in and I paid my fee, just because I did it for me. I didn't do it for anybody but me. So I go into the gun shop one day, and the owner's like, hey, blah, 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 and basically offers me a job. So I'm like, whoa, I can work at the gun shop? Oh, that's like the coolest thing ever. At that point, not knowing that it was a little bit more stressful than I had anticipated. So anyway, he offered me a match for what I was making at the time, and I was having elbow issues from years and years of swinging a 12 and 8 pound hammer when I was a kid. So it wasn't anything serious, but I was like, hey, what? I'll take a break from shooting horses. I'll talk to Pops, and my dad was like, heck yeah, go do it. Awesome. So I went and did it, and I learned a lot. I learned how to build. I mean, Rich built race guns. He built IDPA competition guns. He built 2011s, 1911s, and like I learned all this stuff when I was working there for roughly 5 to 6 years. So we'll move, trying to keep it condensed as I can. Moving forward, I ended up shooting USPSA pretty seriously. I had a Glock 35 and a Glock 34, both raced out, both jet funnel magwells, both Dawson Precision sights, Salos guide rods with like ISMI 10 pounders on them. Like the guns were raced out. They were awesome. 175 millimeter magazines with Taran. At the time they weren't Taran Tacticals. They were the same extension, but it was a different company. So I learned a lot about triggers. I built so many guns at that point. I was like, I had the trigger. I had like the Glock trigger, like that I liked at least. And Aaron actually has one of my triggers. He likes it. So I learned a lot doing that, and then I just kind of, at the range all the time, I end up having, like anybody does, you have a group of range buddies. Well, I end up that like their range buddies would start to bring their range buddies and their range buddies, and I would end up like literally teaching classes. Like it was like I would end up just teaching, like not like 20 or 30 people, like 6 or 7 at the max, like 2 or 3 at the minimum, like just hanging out, BSing, talking, walking people through certain things and certain steps, and that's how Pace was born. And at that point, I had done so many classes, like from Stig Academy, from Front Sight. I did a Magpul in Boulder, Colorado back in 2007. Like, I mean, it was such a great experience for me to take all those courses and all the training that I had done and all the shooting I had done. I wanted to help people because I was, once again, we discussed this. I was raised by the village. Like the shooters raised me. The shooters that are in those competitions brought me to where I am now. They showed me the way, at least, to figure out how to get to the next level on my own. Because their whole thing was as well, like we don't always have time to go and pay for a class, so like we have to develop these ideas and skills on our own sometimes, and not generally the wrong skills, but just fundamentally speaking, good trigger control, good sight picture, fast reaction times, getting to the gun, good draw, and everything like that. And that's basically where pace comes from. Ended up getting together before that with Jason Dunbar, who was a good friend of mine, and we spent a lot of time together teaching. He helped me out with pace. He did a lot of administrative stuff. Great guy, great help, awesome. And Matt Malazewski, who's still with Pace, who's a very good friend of mine as well. Jeff Bastidas is a very good friend of mine as well, who's involved with Pace. And it was just it was a family. We're like a family, so like we really enjoy what we do. And Matt and Jeff can't always be there because they have different jobs and they're not always around, so we can't always get together on the same dates. But that's basically what brought Pace about, which is once again why I do what I do. Like I do it for the students. I don't do it to be famous. I don't do it to be the fastest or the bestest. It's literally I'm here to help someone extract what's already there. I'm not here to teach you so much as I am to help you understand what your capability and your potential always was. It's just no one tapped on it for you. No one cracked the egg and put it in the pan. They just rolled it around a little bit. So like that's to me that's the biggest benefit to what I do is just seeing it click in people's heads and seeing them get from point A to point B the fastest, the most efficient, and the basically the best way possible.
Well, that is basically the best segue there to move into the essence of performance shooting. So another loaded question to make you talk for another 10 minutes or so. Because we did this on the phone too. Because performance can be a subjective word too. Some people, especially like if you ever for those that don't know, my work has a range, so I RSO at the range when it's not negative 500 degrees here in Wisconsin. And I've said this before on the show too, like when I watch like good like you or and it's almost terrible watching like really good shooters, watch all the high-end guys on YouTube and you're like looking at them like I am terrible. And then you go work at a range and you look at people that just like everywhere and they're like, "Yep, good day." And you're like, "Oh my god, I'm God." But that performance thing is kind of a subjective word. Like they hit the target, they're happy. To them that's good to go. Us, I'm like, "Oh god, my trigger control sucked there, my grouping sucked, blah blah blah." So, kind of from that context of, what is performance shooting?
Well, I guess what I'd have to do is just kind of take your question and just so everyone kind of understands what I'm about to say is, what is performance shooting to me?
That's good to look at it.
Performance shooting to me, we all understand cars. We all understand motorcycles. There's all different kinds of motorcycles, all different size of cars for different purposes. Then there's the performance vehicles. There's the ones that are built for agility, speed, 0 to 60, 60 to 0. They got an awesome parking brake for you just whipping the tail around and doing donuts or whatever the heck you want to do with it. But that is my basis into which what I put into shooting, because when I was very young, I was about 25, I was told by an RSO, you can't be fast and accurate. And I was like, mother, watch me. Watch me. Like, don't ever tell me I can't do something because I'm going to do it. Like, if someone ever says, like, hey, you can't do that, I'm like, oh, really? Give me a little bit. Like, I'll work at it until I can get it. If it can't be done, then I will be the person to eat the crow and be like, you're right, I couldn't do it. But I tried and I got close. Close doesn't always cut it, though. So to me, performance shooting is we have this let's call it a standard. We have a standard in our minds of how things happen. And throughout that standard, we can only base that standard off of our experiences. And our experiences may not be anywhere on the ladder from low to high or from 0 to 60 as far as speed. That doesn't really mean anything to us at that point until we're shown how to shoot fast and accurately. Or to what I like to call performance shooting, to where like you do everything with a goal in mind, and that is speed and accuracy. It's also efficiency, and I hate using that word because it seems like a buzzword to me. I call it dead or alive, you're coming with me. Like you have like 37,000 muscle memory things going on for your draw. Why can't we just take the gun? And once again, this is the competition side of me and the tactical side of me coming together. Like those tactical pistol courses I've taken, all the shooting that I've done, especially with the groups that I used to come from the tactical camp. So I was always kind of like, well, why couldn't I blend a little bit of that with a little bit of this and do it my way? Like I understand in a class you're supposed to structure it around the class, but at that point you can do anything you want with it. You could go home and take like step 4 and 5 out and just come out in a certain way. But for me, it's always been like, well, how can I do it faster? How can I do it more efficiently? And how can I do it a little bit better? So that for me is, first of all, understanding my own body mechanics. I have short arms, so I'm a little bit easier for me to draw, faster, I guess you could say, because I have less area to move because I'm a little guy. So when it comes to my draw, I don't necessarily do the whole grab, up, orient, push to center chest, collapse the support hand and press out. I generally do it all at once. I just grab and go out. And if I do it in reverse, it's the same thing. So once again, the repetition, not once again, but we'll touch on that later, the repetitions of everything. So what ended up happening was I think, what the heck drill was it? There was a drill. It was like the El Presidente or something. And they were doing, like everyone was doing it, like keyholing it, like everyone's getting a perfect sight picture and everything like that. I'm like, all right, well, I want to do it faster. So it was, I got a good sight picture, and because I was competition shooting, I could track my front sight a little bit better because I had a better understanding of it. So it's bang, 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 bang. And the guy's like, pfft. And he looks at the target, and he goes, that's good shooting. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. All right. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna burn the El Presidente down as fast as I can do it. So I got about 200 rounds together. I went to the range and I loaded up my mags, and I was running it hard. And I ended up doing it like I beat my own record, and I was just like, oh man, that's so cool. And that was like the beginning of this is the beginning of the end for me for speed, because we do get a lot of flack as shooters when people are like, hey, slow it down. And that is really going to depend on the individual's ability. Like maybe you should slow down, or maybe you should speed up, because and they always say a lot of instructors always say like, hey, don't keyhole, don't rat hole a target, push yourself. That's what I do on a daily. Is I always try to push myself and do something better and faster. And I don't do it to beat any specific individual. It's not like I have like a record on my phone of everyone's personal skills. Like I beat myself. Like I'm my own worst enemy. I'm also my own worst critic, because I'll watch videos of myself shooting the car. You gotta change this. You gotta change that. Okay, let's get out to the range. Let's work on that. I'll take notes. Next thing you know, I'm trying to do things a little bit differently. I'm constantly evolving. But that's what performance shooting is to me. It's rounding those edges. It's getting from point A to point B in a more efficient, faster manner, but without losing, because we don't have to sacrifice accuracy for all that. Because if we have a 2-second window of time, if we can get the gun out in 0.7 seconds, that gives us all that time to get our sights lined up and press the shot. So
and look good.
Why not get 2 in? You can get 2 well-placed shots. And it's everything for me is a time compression. I work in seconds a lot of the time. I like to work in seconds. I give myself a certain amount of time to, complete this task. I give myself a couple seconds to complete this task. And it's just a personal thing. It's a personal drive that I have because back in the day someone told me I couldn't. Yeah. I was like, well, that's silly, so what you're saying is because you can't or because you don't think I can, it can't be done. And to me, that's silly. No one should ever throw up limitations against someone else if they don't understand or know. So that's kind of where I'm at, especially with the instructor community. We try to work together a lot of companies, and you start to realize hey, this stuff can work for everybody. When we were on the phone, we discussed a couple years ago. Hey, someone, I don't remember. Like I said, I don't remember if it was Marsoc. SOPMOD, whatever the heck all the special forces guys acronyms digits are. But someone had actually decided in those groups was like, hey, maybe we should grab like a competition shooter and see if we could take home anything. And it ended up they took home a lot, and they ended up kind of integrating that in some of their programs. Some of those competition shooters do still to this day teach with those special groups on how to shoot performance based. Getting to the gun faster, making your hits faster, more accurately, moving, and that's the other big thing is moving. Like getting to the gun is one thing, shooting is one thing, but being able to do it while you're moving is a completely different animal. Dealing with your lower body compared to your upper body, being able to make that conscious disconnect between basically from your hips up, like being able to roll with it instead of just kind of being rigid and being bouncy, like kind of just rolling with what's going on and knowing the timing when your front sight goes over to where you want it to go and having your timing of your trigger set. And there's so much kind of like mechanics that go into it, and that's what I break down for people in classes, is exactly how to break down all those mechanics and those fundamentals to help work better for you. And I really like seeing the results I've seen so far.
Well, and that reminds and I mentioned a bunch of time too. I did my first couple. I did an AR and a pistol league, just local classes, actually at the place I now work. It's funny, if you hang around at a gun shop long enough, you'll probably get a job. That's fact. But it's funny too, and we kind of talk about like the effect. I want to actually do a show on here eventually but like movies and Hollywood, the effect that they have on people on shooting. Because you're like, okay, moving while shooting, no big deal. It's easy. I move this way and I shoot the gun. And once you start doing it, you're like, oh god, like literally, like I ended up, I was shooting it for like the first like 12 weeks, and I ended up running it answering like the last 4 weeks. And we'd have like new people come, they wouldn't hit a target at 6 feet. Like, they're your first time doing it. It can be number one. For me, it just pissed me off because it's like my front sight was not there. This is bull crap. But these bottom mechanics and stuff like that. So I kind of want to jump into a little bit here of that, because again, we're probably going to go a little bit long tonight, as usual. But so let's take some like basics. Well, let's stick with handgun if that's all right with you. Maybe we'll do another show later on talking about some rifle stuff. So like when we're going again, let's just say for the overall standard out there, most people probably meet either just going to the range by themselves or taking some training. They meet that basic NRA pistol. We'll say that they all have that. So like a lot of times you talk about keeping your eyes on that front that front sight. Why is that important? Some people might not, and again too, for me it was like, okay, I put my sights here, I put it there and go. But if you really want to start cutting down those times, it's really important. So watching the front sight, why is it so important?
Well, for most shooters, that's kind of how that's not true. I can't say for most shooters they are taught that, but for the most part, that's one of the first things we learn is like, hey, focus on the front sight. And in my whole thing to the front sight I'm about to call it an argument. The whole thing about the front sight for me is that's important about it is that is where the bullet will end up. If your gun's zeroed properly and your handgun's all ready to go and you don't have an anticipation, which is actually cool to show people when they do have an anticipation, you can show them why the round goes down. It's not because the sights are messed up.
Well, Glocks shoot left too, but
they do clearly all the time. Low left, actually.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, like getting the gun out and then pressing that shot, like the focus on the front sight is probably one of the most important things in shooting, other than trigger control, because that's how you ensure your work. And a lot of people end up taking their focus and putting it to the target right afterwards to focus on the target, because they want to see their work. Whereas I focus on the sight the whole time because I can correct the mistake as I'm working the trigger. Like, all right, well, I felt that one. I remember what I saw before the gun broke, so I know that shot was a little bit left of where I want it to be. So let's clean up our trigger pull. Let's stabilize ourselves a little bit better. Maybe get a wider stance. Maybe relax a little bit in our core. Relax the shoulders a little bit. Whatever I got to do, and then start sending those rounds. But the cool thing about front sight work is that the front sight's there for you as basically that thing's going to tell the future. That tells the future. That tells you what's going to happen next. So if you have two targets behind you, if I put my front sight, covering half of your center bullseye, which is white, and press the trigger, and as I press the trigger, this front sight does not move, that's going to be where the round ends up going. Now, the importance of that is that has to be lined up all the time. It doesn't just line itself up. So you gotta work with those notches. You gotta work with that, whatever size front sight you have. That's just a completely another ball of wax. Your different front sight sizes, you may have, like, in what you see visually in your second or first focal plane, when you start to focus on it, is you may have this much, this much, this much room to play with on either side of the sight. So when you present the gun, if you practice a correct sight picture, you're going to get a better sight picture every time, because you're constantly critiquing that, you're constantly dealing with that. And when we talk about neural pathways, and you talk about the way the mind works, we go from a walking path, which is our synapses moving on a new muscle memory. It's what they call it. But it's basically, the more you use that synapse, the bigger it gets, the better it gets, and you basically becomes a little bit more intuitive, which is why the fundamentals are so important to me, especially sight picture. But the more we get used to it, we don't so much think about it anymore. It just happens. Kind of like when you're doing something that you're so used to doing, like when you get in your car and you push the clutch in to turn the key and make sure it's in neutral. You don't think about that. You just get in and you jiggle the stick just because you want to make sure it's not in gear. Okay, here we go. Warm it up, 15 seconds, whatever. Got to be at work. We don't think about those things. We don't think about hitting the brakes. That just happens. We just do it. Not everybody uses the turn signals, but
that is fact. Well, what about
watching?
What about watching your? And again, this was something I learned too, because I first started shooting. It was shoot. Okay, where did I hit? What adjustments? Usually more of, okay, I shot left, let's move right. But watching the front sight during the shot, and it's still something I struggle with too, because they're number one. I mean, it's a loud, it's a loud bang. You kind of want to see where you hit. You want to see what you did. But if you just want to keep focus on that front sight during the whole shot, right?
That's the idea, and once again, like, I don't know the refresh rate or the frame rate of the human eye, but I'm almost certain we can't track the whole thing. Like, we can only track certain points of it, and when we do the whole, like, sight picture thing as we're shooting, what we're not doing is we're not consciously. You may be consciously looking for it, but you're not going to consciously catch it. Like, there's a lot of people out there like, yeah, track your sight. You can watch the sight. Like, well, you can and you can't. What I end up doing is I end up going through, like, 3 focus patterns. Like, it depends on the gun I'm shooting. Like, I may shoot a gun that's really flat recoiling, so I can literally watch the rear sight move, just like this. The whole gun will just do this, and I can just watch the back and the front sight do this. And there's some guns where I can't do that, so I end up keeping my focus right around the breech, and then as it comes forward, refocusing on that front sight, making sure it's aligned and going. And that also comes from your grip. You can't not have a good grip and catch your front sight fast enough. So when a lot of people are having, let's call it a struggle with catching their front sight fast enough, it does have to do with a little bit of recoil control management. It has a little bit to do with their grip. It has a little bit to do with maybe the way the gun's set up for them. There's a lot of things that can go into it. But catching your front sight, is not the easiest thing to learn how to do. But if you want to get better at it, go to the range and shoot 2 to 5 shot successions on a good cadence. Figure, like, 1 shot every second, and just do your best to bang, let the gun settle back down, and just catch it. And then go ahead and do your adjustment to get the front sight on target. And bang, reset, adjust, bang, reset, adjust, bang. Then when you feel comfortable with that, bump it up. Push yourself. Learn something about yourself. Prove yourself wrong. And that's what we do. When you go out and you start working that drill a little bit faster, you start understanding a little bit more about the gun. Like, wow, I didn't really see the sight do, like, if we were to look at the profile of the gun, I didn't really see the sight do this, but I saw it when it was done. When it was done doing what it was doing, it was right back where it was. So it looks just like this. Bang, bang. And all you're seeing is the thumb. Bang, bang, bang. And it's exactly what you see in your eye. It's just whack, 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 whack. And it becomes a game. Because you're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. When you start to understand it and you get better at it, you're like, oh, man, I've never done that. Like that's like mind blowing. Like when I was shown it, I was like, I just
Magic tricks, magic tricks.
couldn't even explain what I did. I pulled the trigger and
Well, let's hit on reloads here, because that's something that, at least for me, like, and I'm trying to work on this the other day at the range too. Is it seems like there's always something you can do to be better at, to be faster at it.
yes.
And sometimes it can be a pain, and sometimes I don't know. So for some reason, for me, it seems like there's good days or bad days with it. And again, maybe I don't have that muscle memory part
Exactly.
down.
Everybody
So
has it's everybody has it.
yeah. So kind of walk us through a kind of and I don't know in your classes if you actually cover how to do, like, speed reloads, you want to call them tactical reloads. Can you kind of give us kind of some information and walk through on kind of how you approach it?
Well, we do 3 reloads. Tactical reload with retention. We do a reload that is very much like a tactical reload, but it's like for the competition guys that have to reload with that retention. Sometimes you have to, sometimes it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's part of the tactical reload. The next one is reloading when you know you still have a round in the chamber. So you know you're dropping the magazine. You're technically doing a tactical speed reload if you want to do that. And just for the viewers, we'll go ahead and we'll check this. We'll make sure that's clear. Looks good to me.
That's a good looking pistol, by the way.
This is one of my agencies. This is one of my favorite guns. So what I like to do is, that being said, we go to the speed reload. So of course we'll start with the tactical reload. It's a little bit more, and the reason behind starting with a tactical reload instead of a speed reload is because they get more time handling the magazine. They get more time understanding why we do what we do. Then we get into like the whole speed tactical reload, where it's like, hey, I'm going to drop the magazine. I have a 15-round mag. I shot 10 or 12 rounds. I don't care about those last 2 rounds. I'm going to drop those out. I want to get a fresh magazine and continue what I'm doing. Once again, performance shooting, not tactical shooting. Next would be the speed reload. Now, the interesting thing that I found, and the way I like to explain it is, I have a term that I use in all my classes, and it's a big one for me. I can't coin it because it's not my term, and the term comes back from the Old English, I believe. It's called idle hands. The idle hands are the devil's playthings. All right. Well, idle hands can get you in trouble in shooting, because one hand, if you want to be efficient, you want to get things done fast. These have to always be moving, whether it be milking the grip or keeping control of the gun or working on your stray left to right on the gun while it's working, or front to back, whatever it may be. However it may be, that's the really important part, is to understand, and this will make more sense as if someone is listening and wants to go out and try it, it'll make more sense when they get to the range. So you have your mag pouch set up, you have your gun set up, you're ready to go, whatever drill you want to do for a speed reload, however it is. The idea behind a speed reload for me is, sometimes it's broken down into sections, like a lot of things are, especially the draw. The draw can be broken down into sections, so we want to round those edges, right? So in the essence of rounding edges, let's look at our speed reload. Sometimes the reload is taught like, I have the gun, I have an empty mag in the gun, and what I want to do is I want to drop my magazine, I want to grab my new magazine, insert it, go over the top or hit the slide stop, catch, whatever it may be, represent the gun, and fire my rounds. Okay, so that's great. How can we round the edges? We can round our edges by why, and this is taught, but it's not really enforced in a lot of classes that I've noticed. When you're on the gun and you need to do that reload, why not, as soon as your thumb starts to move to the button, the magazine release, why isn't this hand already on the new magazine? Because that would be efficiency to me. Because at that point, I can drop this magazine and have my hand on the new magazine and be up and in the gun in a matter of splits. So the idea there for rounding the edges for me was, a lot of people I had seen, like bang, 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 and this was their process. Bang, 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 drop, grab, insert, over the top, bang. Okay, that's good. It is a good reload. It's going to work 99.9% of the times. It's going to work. Well, let's talk about when we don't have the time to do that. So if we want to get faster at it, we have to start basically rounding the edges. Once again, there's that word. We're going to beat that word to death tonight. So the idea being, when I drop that magazine, my hand's already going to the fresh ammo source. So and essentially what I'm doing is everything at once. It's a chaotic mess, and we're going to make harmony out of it. Okay, so we're going to take this chaos, and we're going to get some melody out of it. We're going to get this trombone to give us a good tune. So the idea here is, as I'm shooting the gun, when the gun is empty, now it doesn't matter to me. A lot of guys say, like, well, do you inspect the chamber? Do you flip the gun? Do you do this? Like, whatever it may be. I can tell my gun's empty just by looking at it and feeling it. When it's in slide lock, I can't tell it's empty on a closed chamber. I mean, obviously, I'm not that smart or that good. But I can see that the gun's empty. So I'm pew, 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 and the gun's empty. I don't have to look like this. I can see the gun's empty. So at that point, I drop my magazine, and I don't keep the gun, like, here. I keep the gun here because I want to get everything done as fast as I can. The shortest point, the distance here, when I get to seat it, is just right here to full extension. So I don't want to come back and then back out. When, once again, rounding those edges, I can drop, reinsert, and be right back on target. So I'm sure if you want to check out my reloads, unfortunately I posted a couple of them on Instagram. You can check out my there's many different types out there that I do, and it all is really gun specific. Like, if I'm using a Glock, I reload that way. If I'm using a Stig, I end up seating the magazine and going to the top because that darn Stig button is just not in the right place for me. So, like I said, we want to do everything at once. We want that chaos to become harmony. So we're here, I'm dropping, I'm right back on the gun, and I'm right back out. Because I'm rounding my edges. Because I'm taking a process and I'm owning it. I'm taking a process that was taught to me to be a step-by-step process, and I'm saying, whoa, wait a second. There's no law that says I have to reload like that. There's no one came down off a mountaintop with the 10 commandments of firearms, except the firearm safety rules, and those damn well better be commandments. You better follow those. So my whole thought process was, well, wait a second. I do what I want most every day in my life, so I want to do it this way. I want to try out to see if I can get better. And now, and we talked about this over the phone, a lot of people have asked me, how do you reload so fast? Well, I practice. Practice. But what I don't tell a lot of people is why I reload the way I do is because back in 2007 or 8, I saw a man named Travis Tomasi shoot IPSC, which was like, that man was on fire that day. Travis Tomasi has, I think, the fastest reload in the world. It is a blink of an eye, that gun is reloaded. It is incredible to watch, but I watched how he did it, and I started dissecting what he was doing, and I kind of rounded I was watching what he was doing. I was like, there's nothing's wrong with this. It's a perfect picture. It's the Rembrandt of reloads. It's like there's absolutely nothing lost here. It's all just working in his favor. It's everything he's doing is working in his favor. There's no downtime on the gun. So like that was my big thing. Was like I want to eliminate downtime in the gun because through the classes I had taken, the idea of keep the gun in the fight and shoot was always there. It's like always this whole like this rush, like this whole stress thing, like trying to get into your head, like come on, faster, come on, get it done, fix it, unfuck it, whatever it may be. And I started like working on that kind of a reload, and I was like, wow, this is pretty smooth, pretty fast. And through competition, that's where I basically developed it and got really kind of found myself there with it. But you will lose a reload if you don't practice it. Well, reloads are a lot like shooting. If you do not reload at full speed all the time, your speed reload is going to lack.
Well, that's exactly kind of what I was thinking while you're kind of going through this there is, I mean, you look at a lot of times, especially, the most of my shooting I generally do is when I'm RSOing because, okay, everyone, okay, everybody good to go hot, okay, everybody goes hot, then, okay, there's no one here that looks like they're going to kill me. I could probably go up the range a little bit. So, you'll shoot a little bit. But if you're not, I'm assuming it's, and then again, even when I go to the range too, okay, shoot the magazine, okay, set it down. Majority of the time, you're not focusing constantly trying to hone that skill. So I'm thinking you got to we're talking repetitions of repetitions of repetitions, right?
You know what? And here's the thing, and for those people that are very technically oriented, and the guys that look at everything and they say like, well, hey, you shouldn't do that because. Let's push that aside. Let's just forget about that. Seriously, let's fucking stop it. If you want to get faster your reload, practice a 1, reload 1. Now, what people are going to be saying, the guys that are the Nazis about techniques and stuff, they're going to be saying like, well, why would I do that? I'm teaching myself to reload after 1 shot. Well, not if you train in context. If you're at the range and you tell yourself and you're saying like, all right, today I'm practicing reloads. If you're out practicing reloads like that every day, every weekend, whatever it may be, thousands of rounds a month, yes, you could have a problem because that's a lot of 1 reload once. That's a lot of 1 reload once.
If you shoot a case of ammo doing that, that's amazing.
Exactly. So if you throw it into your workout, like what I call my workout routines, so like I'll go to the range and I have my workout routine set up. Like, all right, I'm going to do 50 rounds of 1 reload 1. I'm going to do 50 rounds of 1 reload 1 on the move. Or I'm going to do 3 reload 3s on the move or something. Kind of throw it in there, mix it up, get your hips in it, and you go out and you do those things, but with the idea in mind of that's your goal. Your goal is the reload. Your goal is not the process. Your goal is the reload. Right? The end goal has never been the process. The end goal has been the completion.
Yes.
So before we get the people that want to come in and say or think like, well, hey, well, you can't practice 1 reload 1s all the time. You're gonna mess up with this or that. Like, well, no. Well, we train. We have the ability as human beings to make a conscious effort to know that we're going to the range to train. We go to the range to train. Okay? We don't go to the range to gunfight. We train on the range. We do not gunfight on the range. So before any of that even comes down the pipeline, let's think about the goal. The goal is the reload. Why wouldn't we practice a reload? Why wouldn't we do 1 reload 1? Why wouldn't we do 2 reload 2s? Why wouldn't we spend time on that? Because we think it's going to cause a bad habit? No. How do you think guys get good at this? They don't wake up one morning and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the best damn reload in the world. Watch me. They go out and every day, like those people, like those CrossFit people, they have that drive. They want it. They can taste it. It's right there. It's like, oh, it's so close, but they just gotta work so hard to get it. And that's what it's about, man. It's about working hard to get where you want to be. No one's gonna do a reload for you. No one's gonna make you better. You gotta do it yourself. And if you want to unlock your potential, pull up YouTube, pull up a video, get a DVD, take a class. Get some direction first, and then go about what you're doing. And I say that jokingly, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that say I can't afford a class. Well, you can afford the gun. You can afford the ammo for the gun. So let's save up a little bit. Let's take a worthwhile class, just one worthwhile class, and let's build upon that. As long as it's a good class from a reputable instructor that knows his stuff, and he's doing something that is meaningful to your involvement with the firearm, go take that class. And from there, let that be your foundation and build upon that.
Well, and I think they hit a good point too. Is like I've taken 2 classes total, and some that really didn't stick with me until literally, just being on YouTube and starting the show was when you go take a class. Yes, they're showing you what to do and how to do it, but they're literally showing you everything to do when you go to the range. When you go to the range, they're showing you how to do the drill. They're having you do the drill, and then they're reviewing the drill with you. They're literally saying, okay, next time you go to the range, go do this. And I think that's what I really missed out on my first training opportunities was instead of being so focused on, okay, I got to make sure to get this drill right, and I got to try to do it fast and accurate, and of maybe just more of, okay, how was the drill done? Not necessarily worrying about my performance, even though, I mean, that is a little bit important, but walking away with more information about, okay, now I have the tools to repeat this at the range.
Yes.
and I don't know. That's
Gotcha.
something that I feel like I missed out there. But too, for our podcast listeners out there, when we're talking about the reloads here, I kind of make sure that they understand it here is, so when we're talking about the reloading we just talked about, we're not talking about, because you say, bring it to your window, where you can. We're not talking like, we're not talking the window here where we do everything, you know, we're almost doing the pirate patch
Absolutely.
reload, where we're keeping the gun out and up. We're, again, as you talked about, we're not having idle hands. We're dropping that, and by the time that mag is being dropped, we're grabbing another one. So we're keeping it out. We're not up in the window where we can see the gun, we can see everything. With it forward, it actually gives you a better view.
It does.
So I just want to make
It
sure that
does.
was clear. So I'm going to pick your brain about one more thing here, and then we'll
Go.
wrap it up here, because of course we're going long as usual. Shooting while moving, that is, it's so much more difficult than it looks,
Uh,
and especially too if the classes I've taken, only one was just a little bit of movement. We're talking, you do a basic handgun class, handgun one, you maybe do it, but it's not like, okay, here's what's going on with your body, here's what it wants to do, here's what you want it to do, how do you control it. And so, like, shooting, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to take my knees, I'm going to try to absorb it, my body, I'm trying to absorb stuff to try to keep my hands on target. Right, wrong, can you kind of maybe drop some tips on shooting while moving?
what I like to do with people when we talk about shooting and moving is a very simple drill that you could do at home. It's something that you could do on the range, off the range, in your hallway at home, in your living room, in your bedroom, in your kitchen. And I don't know everybody's situation, so I can't sit here and tell you, exactly what to do and it be a blanket statement because some people have kids, some people they live with their families or they live alone or something. So find an unused home, unused location in your home, whatever it may be, basement, attic, whatever, somewhere with level footing. And once again, footing is going to change everything. But if you want to get better at shooting on the move, why don't you go ahead and clear your gun and we'll just work some reps in your bedroom, in your attic. Pick a spot, put up a target. I mean, even if it's just a silly bullseye target or a pasty on the wall, that's fine. It's a reference point. And practice walking towards it, heel toe, walking. And that's the thing. When we say heel toe, it's difficult for me to say that because when people hear heel toe, they think clunk, clunk. What I like to do is like when I say walk like a cat or walk like a tiger, get low and toy like a tiger. I like to think about it like a wave. Basically you want to take your feet and you want to make a wave out of them. You want to just like you're normally walking, except you're incorporating your hands into it. Now, if you can't do it with a gun, take your hands like you normally hold a gun, put your thumbs forward, and use in between your thumbs as the sight. So as you're moving, put that V of your thumbs on something and walk and pretend a trigger press and do your best to stabilize. Now, in order to stabilize it, you have to think about a couple things. I have to disconnect my legs from my rest of my body. How do I do that? Well, it's not hard. It's all about relaxing your core, which is a contradictory statement because we have to keep our core somewhat tight for this. So we want to keep our core relatively relaxed but still engaged. We want to keep our shoulders in our normal shooting position. Everything's the same, but we're just moving now. So what I like to do is I like to basically, we'll use that term, that catwalk, the Tony the Tiger. We're going to scurry forward. Pick a pace for yourself. Start slow. Get in every repetition, walk faster. And I don't mean go all the way back to where you started. Go from where you start to where you end up, then go from where you end up to where you start. There's no need to waste time walking back and forth. Walk forward with the gun or with your hands. Walk backwards in the same thing. And then you can work on horizontal movement. You can work turning your body a little bit, bending an elbow if it helps you, whatever it may be, because no one's comfortable when they're shooting and moving. Not many people, at least. It gets easier, but it's not ever like, shooting and moving. It's like breathing, no big deal. There's a little bit of an effort that needs to go into that. So what I do is I'll grab, I have it right here. I have my trusty agency here, and I have fiber optic sight set up with a blank rear. And so what I'll do is I'll pick a spot on the corner, and I'll pick let's say a light switch, and or a doorknob. I like doorknobs because they're smaller. Light switches are such big targets. I like small. So I'll walk, and I'll keep my hands, I'll keep my grip nice and steady, head into it, kind of aggressive with what I do. So when I bring the gun forward, the first thing I do when you know I'm getting serious, I put my head into it. There are some people that have said, what about your vision, blah blah. Well, I can see what I need to see. So I walk, I stabilize myself, I start slow, I heel toe walk nice and slow, and I absorb everything with my body. Now here's the thing: the gun's never going to be perfectly stable while you're walking. It's going to move. So while it moves, go ahead and prep the trigger, and when it crosses the doorknob, press the shot. So when you're front sight, and I can't show you with the gun because that's next to impossible. What I can show you is, let's say my head's the target. So my head's the target, and this is our front sight, this piece right here. As this is moving around while I'm walking, all I want to do is trigger prep, bang. Trigger prep, bang. Trigger prep, bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang. Wherever I think I'm close to the center of my target is when I want to have that trigger prepped and finish my press to the rear. So that's one way to do it. If you have a SIRT pistol, sky's the limit. You could do everything. I mean, you could run and do it because then you have a laser to tell you where you're hitting. You don't have your initial, what I remember where my sights were. Now you have a SIRT where your sights were. So you can work that in there too. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it's very beneficial to a lot of people. I know Ron Brumley has them. I know Aaron Callan from Sage has them. Pretty sure Steve Fisher has them. Steve Arian has them. Will Petty has them. These are all guys that I end up talking to one way or another, during the weeks. And great guys. They have a lot of great input, and that's one of those things that darn SIRT pistol it comes up all the time. It's like, SIRT pistol, and I'm like, I don't really have like $700 to spend on a pistol, but they make a beginner one. It's like $350.
Yeah. So Mike Hughes,
yeah,
where are you at, Mike Hughes? I've been meaning, I need to hit him up to do an on target show with him. So because we've talked about them on the show before, they're just one of the best training tools out there. I mean, it's just when you I think when you get that engagement back, it's one of those really. It helps you, I'd say, police process information of what you're doing.
And that's the thing. But as long as I would never suggest someone that just bought their first gun last week to pick up a SIRT pistol without any type of formal structuring to their shooting. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're someone that picked up your pistol last week and you have structured shooting under your belt prior to that or during that, or you have that experience, then yeah, you need one. You should get one because it's an advantage. It's a workout tool. It's like the freaking home gym. Like it's like the Bowflex. Like you now have a Bowflex in the palm of your hand, and you can do like Instagram selfies with it. You can be like, you could do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. And what's cool about it is that it doesn't cost anything to shoot. You can just shoot it all day long. Christine got one for when she's working, and she can just, when she gets the time and the opportunity, she has one of those little laser light targets, and she shoots it. And her shooting has improved so much. Her trigger control has improved so much, and I attribute it to that. And anyway, not straying too far off. If you can't do the SIRT pistol thing, you have a gun, grab your firearm, clear it. That's the biggie there. Make sure it's clear. This one is. Clear it out. Leave the magazine out of it. That way we don't have any problems. Pick a spot on the wall. Walk. Slow press. Slow press. When the front sight catches your front sight catches your target, finish your press to the rear. And that's the downside of doing it dry fire is you have to re-rack. Now, if you have a double single action gun, the world's your oyster because all you got to do is click, 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 click. So. That's a great drill. That's a drill I still do to this day in and around everywhere I go just because it's one of those things. I have a VTAC target set up in my bedroom, in my living room at home, and that's what I do. I come out of the bedroom, and I do want to talk about something in a minute if that's okay. But
absolutely.
That's one of the things I do all the time. I'm always handling the firearm. I'm always dry firing. I'm always doing mock magazine reloads. I mean, even if I have one magazine, I do a mock reload. I'll drop it down and turn the gun and put it back out and everything, just working on my reloads. Just because it's something that you have to stay on top of. You can't go to the range last month and come to the range in a week, 3 weeks later, and think that you're going to be right where you were. You're going to lose something along the way. Basic principles are going to always be there. The fundamentals are always going to be there, but advanced skills like speed reloading, if you're going for a benchmark goal of like 1-3, you're going to have to work at it. It's not just going to come. You got to work at it. So that's what I have to say about shooting and moving, if that helps.
No, what was the other thing you want to hit on there?
Well, the other thing I want to hit on is a biggie for me, and I'm actually going to be writing an article on it. Firearms intimacy. Let's not break context here. Give me a second.
Hold on. Why you say that, though, I got to plug something real quick here.
Go ahead.
Obviously, Peter Palmer has been on the show a bunch of times. Did you see the Carnicon video? Oh, my God. So,
wow.
Sorry, because you said that. For those out there, go to in Carnicon. Dugan Ashley's been on the show too. Go to his YouTube channel and look at his newest video. It's called I think the name it's Tactical Talk. It's basically if you were raised, if you watched TV during the '90s, you saw these at night of hot steamy girls. Call now, we're live. They basically did the same thing with Peter Palmer as a guy calling in to do tactical talk, call and talk about your secrets, and hilarious video. Hilarious video.
I love Peter Palmer. He's an awesome dude. He's such a nice guy. I met Dugan Ashley at SHOT Show, and he's not who he is on Carnicon. He is such a cool dude. He is just such a down to earth, nice human being. Definitely a cool guy.
No, but, he's amazingly smart to a lot of people. Again, he has, the Dugan Ashley, but the dude is amazingly, smart, brilliant, articulate, an absolute smart guy. Sorry, I derailed you there, but I had to plug that video because it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
I agree. I loved it. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. Usually Matt Beck's videos are usually the ones that I watch, and I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But Dugan's newest video is definitely one you got to see. And if you haven't, there's something wrong because it's been flying around the internet for like 2 days now. It's like, if you haven't seen it, you haven't been plugged in.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. One last thing I'm going to since we're talking about Pete, he just launched his new Kickstarter for the double stack MS Clean kits, however you want to say them. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes, a link to it. But if you just go to Kickstarter, search MS Clean, you'll find that there. They've already raised like $16,000 in like less than a day. So, but be sure to go check that out. I have a MS Clean somewhere in my pile of stuff here. It's a fantastic tool. I always take it to the range with me. All right, I'm done interrupting you. I swear.
It's your show. I'm just here. It's okay. Anyway, I'm going to be doing an article on what I shouldn't say we. There is no we. What I call weapon intimacy or firearms intimacy. I call it that because, and once again, the phrase in context would be the intimate knowledge you have of your firearm. And I don't mean like there's a lot of people out there that the only time they handle the gun is at the range. Or when they put it in the safe and that's where it stays. Now, if that's your living arrangement, I can't stop that. I'm not gonna. I don't want to. But if there's any of you guys out there that have the ability to handle your firearms in a safe environment at your home or wherever you are, in a cardboard box, you can handle the firearm. I always say like I get intimately familiar with my firearms, and that being said, I'll handle it a lot. I'll milk my grip. I'll find the perfect grip spot for it. I'll find the best way to present it and get my sights aligned. I'll constantly mess with the controls. I'll constantly lock to the rear, drop the magazine, reinsert, go to the top, hit the slide catch, whatever it may be. Mess with the lighting system. To find the best way to prep the trigger, whatever it may be. But that's what happens when I get a new gun. I become intimately familiar with the firearm. Now, there are some people that say they call that playing with the gun. I guess, if that's what you really want to call it, I think that playing with it is kind of taking it out of context and creating a negative out of what should be a positive. And for that firearms intimacy, that intimacy with your understanding of the firearm, I think there's a lot to be said about just handling the firearm. When you can't shoot it, if you can, and you want to spend some time with the gun and understand it a little bit better, mess with it, take it apart, inspect the parts. Rack the slide. Drop the magazine, mess with the parts. Yeah, that's the big thing for me. Is I'm always handling the firearm. I mean, I'm a manipulation instructor and a fundamentals instructor. So like the thing I want to do is always become and be intimately familiar with the way this thing works because I have to explain this. If you're an enthusiast, why wouldn't you take the time to get to know your gun better? You take the time to get to know your car better. You change the oil in it. You change the tires in it. You take it to the shop and have someone else look at it. But with a firearm, you can do that all yourself. And the cool thing about the firearm is you don't have to pay to handle it. The only time you have to pay for it is when you buy it. After you own it, you don't have to pay anybody to handle this thing, which is, once again, one of those things that I see as a problem because, once again, we talked about the negative nomenclature of playing with the firearm. I feel like it's had a negative connotation in our industry because people are like, oh, he's playing with the gun. Like, well, no, I'm getting to know my gun better. And if that means I'm better at using it, and I'm better, if not using it, understanding how to get around it and work around it while I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's the big thing for me is that I'm getting to know the gun. Now, this is an agency. This is the Urban Cut. I just got this gun a week ago, if that, a week and a half ago, and I haven't put it down because when I go to the range, I want the rest of it to be understood, and then I want to get to know how it shoots, and then mess with it from there. But I want to understand the actual firearm and my grip and my interface to the gun first. So I won't go to the range with a brand new gun first day and be like, all right, we're at the range, let's shoot it. I'll pull myself back, handle the firearm a little bit more, get to understand it and the way it works a little bit more, because it's a Glock. It's going to work like any other Glock. However, it's sprung differently. Its sighting system is different. The slide weight is different. It's got a battle plate on it, so now I have something else to mess with. I can rack this thing on anything. So I have all this new stuff to mess with. Well, let's understand why they put so much time and effort into the gun. And once you start to mess with a Glock or a STIG or an M&P or an HK, you start to understand why they do what they did. Because you start to understand, like, oh, well, that's there because X, Y, Z. Or, hey, HK actually has front cocking serrations. That's pretty crazy. And that's just what I wanted to touch on, is just being a little bit more intimately familiar with your firearm is going to be better than not knowing. And I say that because there's been a couple instances where I've asked people, like, that have been like, hey, what ammo should I get for the class? You should get target ammo. Okay, well, these people don't know the caliber of their gun. That's a problem. They don't know if they don't know the caliber. If they do know the caliber, they don't know what model it is. Well, it's a Glock. What model Glock is it? Well, I don't know. It's a 9mm. Is it big? Is it small? Is it tiny? Like, oh, I don't know. It says on the side of it, like, what's it say on the side of it? A 17. Okay, you have a Glock 17. There you go. But you bought the gun. You invested your hard-earned money into it. At least give it its due diligence and understand it a little better. Now, once again, not everybody's going to be able to do that. Not everybody's going to be able to mess with their gun at home and mess around and click it and clank it and, it's not going to piss off the neighbors or whoever else, the girlfriend, the wife, the kids. You got to be careful. You got to watch that. But if you do get time to spend with the firearm in a safe environment where it's not going to, annoy anybody, it would be cool. I think it's always good. It's always value added. Another buzzword, value added, to spend some time with the firearm and get to know it and get to know how it works and its features and like what works for you, because that's what it's about. It's about what works for you. It's not about what works for me or what works for Nick or what works for Aaron or the other Aaron or AA Ron. It's about what works for the individual. We're essentially here for you. These firearms companies, these ammunition manufacturers, these parts manufacturers, they're here for you because you're the one buying the stuff. So why not understand what you need a little bit better? And that's all.
I feel like, well, I mean, you're 100% right, but I feel like everything you said there is like, whatever you do to your wife, do to the gun. You want to be intimate with it. You want to handle it. You want to be, you want to know how it runs. That's just, maybe I'm a sadist at this point in time for being so long. So,
let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the term, the gun should be an extension of your body?
Yes.
How can a part of your body be a part of your body without you being intimately familiar with it and how it works?
No, that is 100% correct.
So at least that's the way I look at it.
No, I think that's a good way to look at it. And something too is, and it's again something I wasn't able to today. What I'd like to do is usually like before the show I like to dry fire. This is like before the show. This is my dry fire time where I'm in a basement to where I'm underground, where I have to wear warm clothes when I'm recording because it's cold. And we have just I pick out different bricks. And it's just one of those things to where, especially if you have guns with different triggers, like I don't have an OC trigger in my carry Glock right now, but on my Glock 34 I do. So obviously I'm carrying my Glock 17 every day, so I need to get used to that trigger because it's a very different trigger.
Absolutely.
No, you're 100% correct there. So, but we're gonna go wrap it up here, and again, there a million more things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I didn't get to the footwork. We had a great staying in your lane conversation. We didn't get our gear segment, so I apologize for you guys out there. We're definitely going to get Paul back on here because we got to talk about more pistol stuff, and we didn't even get to the AR stuff, which I really wanted to hit on with him. So, man, thank you for coming on today, and thank you for literally just scratching the surface with us. I definitely got to get you back on here sometime to dive more into this because I'm excited to talk about this and something too which I meant to drop it because I was like I could sound really smart right now, but of course now I forgot the word of how to describe performance shooting of the 3 circles that go together. I used to know the word for that when we were talking about it, and now I forgot it. But it's I kind of where I see a lot of if you look at like a tactical circle and then a competition circle and and where those 2 circles kind of overmash. God, what's the word for it? I had it earlier. I was like,
I think of it, or the Olympic symbol, like the rings.
Yeah. Man, because it was like it's like the only thing I remember from math class. Like that's it. Starts with a V too. But this is where I kind of want to talk about this because I just see if you get into the performance shooting, okay, you can see it's applicable here, it's applicable here, it's applicable here. It's one of those things to where you can, hey, like we talked about, is not everything might be for, if you're law enforcement or something, that might not be something that you can do. You might have laws, regulations, or how your gear is or whatever. But there's parts you could take from it, incorporate it, or competition shooting, and that's why I really love performance shooting is. Hey, maybe you can't take all of it for whatever different reasons, but there's always something you can take from, or at least take that basic mindset of okay, how do we as you said, round those corners to make this a little more efficient.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about. And like you said, you may not be able to take everything, but you can take some things in context and apply them. And also, I'm not one of those guys that's like I'm not going to be offended if you take my material and then you make it yours. That's the idea. The idea is to take an idea or a technique and make it work for the user, for you. So if you take a technique and adapt it to your lifestyle or to your purposes, that to me is that's what I want people to do. I want them to be able to these skills are adaptive, they're evolving, and they're gonna always be evolving. And that's the big thing that shooters should keep in mind is like, hey, don't always have to do it like the instructor did it. You won't always have to do it like the magazine or the DVD or what you saw happen, because you might not be able to do it exactly like that. You make it the same you make it the same end result, but you can't do the procedure the same way because people are different shapes and different sizes, and they have different muscle masses and muscle densities and different lengths of arms and legs and bodies, and everything's different. So like that's the cool thing about shooting is you take what you know, you apply it, and then you take what you learn and you apply it to what you know, and then you create a beautiful blend of your own. And that's what it's about. It's about shooting your way, not shooting my way, not shooting A.A. Ron's way from Solo, not shooting Cowan's way from Sage Dynamics. It's about shooting your way, or you're here for you anyway. You're not taking a class for somebody else. You're taking it for you. So why not make it work its absolute best for you?
Venn diagram, by the way, I remembered it. Venn diagram. I was going to drop that earlier.
Venn diagram.
That's it. So
smart.
It's the one thing I remember from like my first year of college. I had to take math. That's like the one thing that I had to I remember from it. But anyways, let's go ahead and we'll wrap up this show here. But as always, guys, please check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network as well by visiting firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. Please go check out the Reloading podcast, and please go check out the Gun and Gear Review podcast. I can tell you, Mike has been doing awesome stuff with the Reloading podcast, and I keep every once in a while saying we're going to collab on some stuff, and we're getting there. Eventually, we'll get some collaboration stuff here for the new projects that I'm launching here. And then again, Ryan's doing an awesome job over at the gear, the Gun and Gear Review podcast. So please go check them out. I always really want your feedback here at Practically Tactical. So please send any compliments, feedback, guest suggestions to Nick at firearmsradio.tv. Please give us a review on iTunes as well. I want to thank, this is a hilarious name, Snow Masochist and Dunner553 for the awesome iTunes ratings. Snow, I'm assuming you hopefully live up here near me because that name is awesome on iTunes. You made me laugh while reading the iTunes reviews. I appreciate it from you guys out there. Also, please find us on Facebook. And again, visit us on Facebook where I have links here to Pace Performance's Facebook page. I also have links up on Instagram. Again, all these will be in the show notes. So again, Paul, hey man, thank you for coming on here. I know I had an awesome time with you, and I think everybody listening here is going to have just an enjoyable time as well. Again, it's one of those things to where I'm considering walking away with, okay, what boxes have I put on myself that I need? When I go back to the range again, that's what I'm thinking about. Is like, okay, what have I been doing? Where like, okay, this is how it's done. You know what? Maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe I don't need to sit there and be like, okay, well, here's how it's done. What can I do different?
Well, that's the thing, man. The box is for structure. After your structure is there, venture outside of it. See what else you can get done.
See what trouble you can get into. So
absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I had an excellent time. So as always, guys and gals, we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for listening, as we greatly appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys next week for another episode of Practically Tactical.